You can hear me and see me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. I have a thing, so hopefully my audio will be better. Now my question is, any questions from last time? Did you try doing up? Did you run into issues? I was just troubleshooting of the guys here, and the mistake there was that he had assigned a port as a trunk port connected to a laptop, and that is why that was not in the network. So IP addressing, you guys have tried solving problems.
Yes,
If
sir.
I give you a /26 subnet mask, okay? So I have A.B.C.D/26. Will this subnet mask, the subnet mask for this be 255.255.255.192? Yes, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Now, if I say /26, does that mean 26 network bits? Which automatically means, since I've got 32 bits in all, 6 host bits in this subnet. That be correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Start looking at my chart. Start looking at my chart also. Now I've got 6 host bits. 2 to the power 6 is how much?
32.
64.
64.
Is it 64? Everybody agrees?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The first and the last we will use, because one is for the network, which will be in the routing table, one the broadcast for this network, which means number of PCs will be 62 in this subnet. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
As long as you understand that, yeah. Something similar will be in your exam, just so that you know. It will be in your exam today, it in your final exam. Because this kind of stuff you need to be able to solve. I'm not doing hard subnetting, but this is foundational. I could have done it in class B, and then the numbers become significantly bigger. I choose not to. So my emeritus is back. I gave them money. It had expired. They took $50 fine. $85 is membership for a year to call yourself emeritus. 50 bucks fine. Late fee. That's fine. Okay, anyway. Yeah. Now, today we are basically, what is happening is what I have seen now is one is doing labs is more interesting, or listening to the slides is more interesting for you.
Doing labs is more interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. So that was a leading question in legal terms. Right? I wanted you to give that answer. My plan is, what I will do is, we will today, because one is also we are running late. Next class is our last class. So next class is when I will do firewalls, and I will share videos so that you get general knowledge on what a firewall is and what it does, and we will just jump into it and do it, right? Uh, for the next class. So today we need to finish access control list, network address translation, and routing, which is a lot of material. And if I do the slides, and I do the slides, and what I also do is I do the labs, we will have to go very fast. and I personally don't learn like this. So what my plan is, I will. You can see that you will have access to the slides. What my plan is, I will talk about the concept. I will explain it on the board. If there are some commands, I will write those commands. I will make a topology which I will share with you guys. Okay, so that you can just load and start working on it. The picture we drawn here, I'll probably give him so that somebody do it on the top. Hey, do you have some chair metal type somebody can stand and draw? So that that part does not change at all. So not now, but by tea break, if you can get me. Plan is that I will draw the topology here permanently for this class and next class. So that we can, it was like that chart, that subnetting chart I had done. It will not even take space because I cannot reach that high. That's the plan. Okay. What I will do is I will talk about access control list. I'll talk about NAT. Whatever commands are there, I will write it on the board and get into the labs and start doing the labs and show you how it works. With VLANs and all that, it was easy because you could do most of it from the GUI. Now GUI story is going to change because we will be using commands. We will be using commands on Cisco iOS. But bottom line is again, well, you definitely for your lab exam, you need to know the commands. But still, the goal will to understand how things happen because platform to platform commands may be different. But if you do not understand access control list, if you do not understand NAT, and if you do not understand routing, then you do not understand 50% of the functionality of a firewall, at least. Okay. Now, any questions on the VPNs? You have questions on your VPNs in the exam today. Questions on your switching in the exam. You have question on the OSI TCP/IP model in the exam. You have subnetting questions in your exam. And I'll do the logic. Once you see the question paper, you will understand. My logic in the exam is that if you have heard this here, I expect you to know so much minimum from the class. And do you know that much minimum or you do not? Okay. How many layers in the TIP model? 5 or 4?
4.
4. 4. OSI is 7. And I told that hybrid is mute the guy, whoever it is. They basically turn on speakers and something is happening on the phone, something is happening with laptop. With this, so now let us go to access control list. So basically, again, the goal is to learn security. The goal is not to learn Cisco routers. But access control list is exactly what it says. It is a list. It is a list of commands which decides what kind of traffic will or will not be allowed. It could be a firewall. It could be a router. Okay. So you basically say from where to where, and I'm going to cut short their standard ACL for the people who know Cisco. Standard ACL, well, this is not a routing class. If it was a routing class, you use standard ACLs extensively there. But we are looking at it from a security perspective. So standard ACLs do not exist for all practical purposes for you. Okay, we will talk about extended access control list. And what extended ACS is, it tells you. So what you do is there are very generically speaking, you create an access list and you apply it on interface in a particular direction. So let me draw a picture and explain that to you. So now let's assume this is my network. This is how we write the routers. Okay, that's the picture and that's a WAN link. Now let's assume this is your LAN. Now this, let's assume, is Bangalore, right? This is Delhi, right? This is Calcutta, and let's say this is Chennai. Okay. Now, if you look at this, this is my. This is a typical enterprise. They have 4 offices in cities, and we're just trying to get simple for now. We have done with the switching. You have seen what all fun stuff we can do with the switching. Let's assume we have one VLAN each, one subnet in these 4 cities. That is where in those LAN interfaces, that is where you have your class and your servers. Clear with this? Yes, no. So let's say
Hello, sir. We can hear you.
what?
Oh, we couldn't hear you.
I didn't say anything. Somebody's phone rang.
Okay.
So are you okay with this? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now, what I have is in Calcutta, I have this particular server .10, which is my FTP server. Okay with this? And in Delhi, I have a server .12, which is my web server. Okay with this topology?
Yeah.
Any doubt, Mr. Dhakar? Till now clear? I've given the WAN interface subnet, so forget that. Not interesting at
Sir,
this point.
sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. We can't see the board.
Huh?
We can't see. We can't see the picture.
He has sent it to you on WhatsApp, I believe, just now. See it. You are also posting it in the chat of the presentation itself in Teams. Okay, good. Yeah, you can see it now in your chat.
Yeah. Now I received the message. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So now, what with an access control list, what we can do is we can say who can connect to these devices or cannot connect to these devices. And how do we do it? Do it on. We will do it based on this kind of criteria. So the criteria could be source IP. So when I say IP, it could be subnet also. So it is not individual IPs, it's a series of IPs. Right? It could be a single IP also. Right? Destination IP. Protocol. And if it is TCP or UDP, then port number. Okay? And if it is ICMP, message type. Remember we talked about echo reply, time exceeded, packet too big, unreachable. Do you remember ICMP, ping and trace route? So that is the message. If you use the protocol as ICMP, and otherwise you could basically use protocols 6 and 17. I told you everybody should know 1, 6, and 17. Damn, that should have been in the exam. I forgot. Okay. Yeah, 1, 6, and 17 should be there. When we talk about VPN, we will also talk about 50 and 51, ESP and AS. When I go back to the firewall, mute this guy permanently, man. Now of the teams. I think he has a phone. Laptop is this guy is in the restroom with the phone. Okay, all right. So now you understood what we are trying to do. So first, what you do is you create an access list. So the general procedure is create an ACL and then apply it to a interface in a particular direction. So when I say direction, okay, so I'm not being 100 true. What you could do is for the second point or apply globally. That means I do not want this subnet to talk to this subnet from between any two interfaces. That is what I mean by okay. Or it would be, let's say, now let me giving you. So this is Ethernet 0, serial 1, serial 2. Ethernet 1, Ethernet 0, Ethernet 1, S1, S2, S1, S2. That is serial 1. Okay. Yeah. So whenever you apply an ACL, so now let's assume my requirement here is that this guy is .19. So what is the IP address? 10.1.1.99/24, right? That would be the IP address of that particular machine. Now my goal is that I do not want this guy to be able to browse the web server easily. Okay with this?
Sir, one question, sir. Like
Yeah.
the IP address that you have given 10.1.1.99/24 or
4
slash
because it
30.
is in this subnet. No, it is in this subnet. That's why they all will be /924.
But we are referring to a single machine there, right? So
I'm giving you the IP address and the submask of that machine.
okay.
I have not used it in a access list yet.
Okay.
Okay. So now, when I said direction. Direction means you need to think that if I am applied, you are sitting here. Is the traffic coming? This will be inbound for this router. Or when it is leaving, this will be outbound for this router. Do you understand this? So when you apply, direction is you assume that you are sitting inside the router. Is the traffic coming into you? Or you have done, it has come in, you have looked up your routing table, you have found out which is the outgoing interface, and you are about to send it. Now should I look at it? So when it is inbound in relation to that router. If it is outbound, it's in relation to that router or firewall. Remember, routing is a functionality. Okay with this? So now my goal is, so let's say this guy should not browse this. So that means, let me write down. Remember that my source IP is only that machine. The goal was not to cut everybody in the Bangalore subnet. You see that? That is why I have told /32. /32 means When in the access list, I will say only this one machine, not everybody else in Bangalore. Okay with this? Now, my destination IP. So this is my source IP. My destination IP is 10.1.2.12 and again /32 because only that server. Maybe there are other servers also in Delhi. I do not want to block access. Right? Now I am coming to the protocol part of it. HTTP is TCP protocol. And I have this source port and destination port number. Now source port, when somebody is browsing in Delhi, can you tell what the source port would be? Either a port number or range. What will it be? Source. Yes. Destination is 80, not the source. You are not the one. Your port be any port which will be greater than or equal to 1024. Do you agree? Remember I explained to you what port numbers were? The browser, your OS will give you a port number, which will be a non-standard port, which will be anything for 1023. 1024 to 65 by 35. Okay with this? Why is this port number 65 by 35?
Maximum number of ports that can.
Why? Why is that limit?
16-bit.
2 to the power of
16
16.
bit field. It is a 16-bit field. You cannot go higher than that in the header.
Yeah.
Clear with this, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Now that I have come up with the specifics, that this is where I can apply. Now, if you look at it, there are 4 places theoretically I could apply. I am assuming that you do not know routing yet, and you are doing the routing based on which is the fastest way to get there. Assuming all the WAN links are the same speed, the best path will be this. This will be the best path, assuming all the speeds are the same and the processing capability is the same. You agree with that? And assuming that your network is set up to do that. So that means though there is a path via Chennai, Calcutta to Delhi also, we are not going to look at it in this example till we get to the routing part. When we get to the routing, we'll do fun stuff. But right now, let's assume this is the assumption for this. Now, theoretically, I could have applied this access list here inbound. Inbound traffic is coming in, or on that interface outbound, or on this interface inbound, or on this interface out. Do you agree with me? Yes, no. Your quiz is after lunch. I think he has posted. Yeah. Do you agree with me? Okay. So if this is blank, I don't image processing. That's a different class. Okay, so if you're that you understood, I'm into verbal communication. So you tell me, raise your hand, right? No, no. You could do, you got 4 places where you could have the same access list to get the job done. Now the question here is, where do I do it? which would be the most optimal way to do it? He says inbound Bangalore, and I agree with him 100%. Reason for that being, you are trying to save the processing in Bangalore. If I on the serial 2 of Bangalore, that means I have taken the packet, I have looked up the routing table, I have figured out how I am going to send it towards the. Just before I was about to send, I am dropping because you know what? Not allowed. So that would suck. I have done so much processing on Bangalore router. But if I do it inbound on the Ethernet itself, I say, you know what, this is coming. Oh, you're going to Delhi, port 80. This IP address, drop. I don't want to do anything at all. Right? If you did it inbound on Delhi, serial 2, that would be a worse idea because the routing lookup has happened. You have paid money on that link to send your traffic all the way to Delhi to be dropped. If you have to drop it closest to the source. And you can accomplish this also if you did bound in Delhi. Then what you have done is you have done the routing lookup Bangalore. You have wasted the bandwidth on the WAN expensive link from Bangalore to Delhi. You have wasted CPU cycles and RAM on the Delhi also for the routing lookup, and then you have dropped it. Do you understand this? Freaking, I drew this picture. This was my source and this was my destination. Look at this. If I was doing about Chennai, then freaking whatever I do is bullshit.
So basically, the user from Bangalore is trying to access the page. I mean, the browser in Delhi, and for him the outbound is, or sorry, for him the outbound is the serial S2, and inbound at Delhi is serial S2 again, right? And
Yes.
we're trying to
Yes.
say at S2 we are trying to block the user.
No, we are trying to block the user here. Here. When it comes into the Bangalore router, I will kill it right here.
Okay.
Otherwise, if I did it here, I am wasting processing on this router, routing lookup. If block it here inbound, processing there, plus this bandwidth I've wasted. If I block it here, then processing here, bandwidth here. I wasted all the three. So the only thing logically which makes sense is drop it at the source. It is like a passenger is now to go to a particular country. Would it make sense to stop them here only at the airport, or you want them to go and land up in the US and get deported? Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay with this? Everybody?
Yeah. So basically, we are trying to block at the inbound of source router.
Yes. 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 If you have that option, you would always do that. There is a possibility you don't have access to Delhi Bangalore router at all. Well, if you don't have, then you will do it inbound Delhi. You do it inbound in Delhi. Only then you don't have access. Would be the case in your environment. Right? Delhi is ISP router. You cannot log and configure Airtel, right? You configure your routers.
Yeah.
Okay with this? Everybody,
Yes, sir.
questions? No? I would rephrase that. I would say ACL would be applied closest to where the traffic is originating, so that you save on the processing and bandwidth.
And the source port range will always be greater than
All right. So now here's I want to this is an open question to the whole class. Now, he said, will the source port always be greater than 1023? He says not necessarily. Okay. So I think at least this part of it I agree with him. Now you tell me why. Why you say so?
Because standard ports will occupy till 1024.
Yeah, but he said not necessarily, and I agree with him.
Because
That
we can
means
bind.
the source. That means the source port could be less than 1024. What is the right answer? Could. Under what circumstance?
When we want to host our own server, our own private ports.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you're trying to do something cool. Under regular circumstances, it could be that, let's say, what you want to do is, you, for whatever funny reason, you do not want this guy to respond to somebody. Let the request come. I do not want this guy to respond or his response to be sent. So then source port would be 80 or 43. So that a request has gone, but a standard response, or you have to FTP, and you don't want that guy to send a SYNAC. Or if we send SYNAC, I want to drop it. If you have a requirement like that, then source port also be this. Okay with this? Questions? Now, another thing which you need to know is, with an access control list, there are a series of lines. So it could be, this is my requirement. Maybe you have got 10 other requirement. Maybe you have another requirement that here there is another machine. Here there is another machine .12, whom you do not want to FTP to this guy. So in the same access list, I will have multiple lines. But the moment you're talking about access list, that means you want to control this, right? So what it does is, the default, the last line, which is not even visible on the routers. On firewalls, I think it is always. So anything else, drop. Which means you say this. So you will say permit and deny, and then you give these conditions. The last one is anything which does not match all those conditions, drop it. So that is what on in Cisco routers it is called implicit deny. Which means when you see the configuration, you will not see this. It is implicit. Everybody understands the difference between implicit and explicit? What is the difference?
this is the one that you mentioned specifically that we
Exactly. You guys have seen the code of conduct when you joined this course? Yes, no? You would have, ideally. Right? Did it say anywhere that You cannot come to the college naked. Right? So that is an implicit thing. They would have explicitly told freaking don't wear freaking, colorful hat and whatever. But this is implicit. So implicit deny is there. That means anything does matter, which also means that you are saying deny this, and the last one is deny all. Which means in your access list there must be at least one permit statement. Otherwise you are shut down. You put an access list here, this guy cannot browse and this guy cannot do FTP and kill everybody else. Fun. That means you have effectively shut down that interface for all of those guys. Do you see that? So there is implicit deny at the end or the last line of the access control list, which could have several lines, several hundred lines. Another thing which you need to note is in the access control list, it is top to bottom process. It is processing when you do is top to bottom, which means first line will be processed, second line will be processed, third line will be processed, and then let's assume there are only 3 lines, then deny all. Which also means that your most restrict statements must be at the top. So when I say restive statements, right? Let's assume we have an access list here. Okay, on this bound. Okay. So have this. Male students allowed. Students with red shirt not allowed. Everybody else not allowed. What would be the sequence? The moment you say first will be male student, this bugger will run away first. Because red shirt was more restrictive. Because in male students he will come, which you said allowed. So the red shirt should be first, then male students, and then everybody else not allowed. Do you understand? That is what I mean by restrict. Like for example, he had HTTP is allowed. Only this guy to the destination not allowed. So if you had HTTP allowed, then this guy will also be able to browse, right? Because if that was on the top of the CL. So the sequencing is important. Most restricted at the top. Clear with this? Yes, no.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
When you type it in that sequence, or well, apparently that's how it used to be once upon. Then they became brilliant. Because what happens is, let's say you had 10 lines and you wanted to insert something between fifth and sixth line, you are actually screwed. Well, apparently these guys woke up, at least Cisco guys for sure. About 15 years back, they started a line number also in the command. Very bad. Otherwise, what you do is you cut it, put it in the notepad, add one line and paste it back. Every clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Finance, HTTP, and we allow the entire subnet.
Yes.
In such scenario, the request for 99 would not still not be processed.
No, because if it 99 first, but if 99 was the second line, then 99 will be able to access. We can do this on the last one itself. That packet thing is still working. Is it launched? Okay. Yeah, if it is not, I launch it. Will I have to log in? So you will log in and give from yours or whosoever. Okay. Everybody okay? Any questions? Why are there less people today, man? Full fun. Everybody is remote. Good. For exam, they'll come or no? Exam is remote. Full fun it is. Okay with this? Now what I will do is, now that I've explained this, I will just gun through the slides in case I've missed something. And we can also, what you should be able to, it should be saved here only, na, somewhere. So load that last one itself.
Then we the number of rules we can do. Yes, yeah.
Limit in terms of number of lines? No. Only thing what happens is, if you have too many lines, the processing goes up. So then what these guys have come up with, well, not now, whatever I'm saying is 10-15 years old. Okay. So then they came up with what is called turbo ACE. You will pre-compile it and keep it in RAM so that that speed thing you don't hit. So if you have more than 100 lines or something like that, you could enable turbo ACLs. Firewalls can do anything on the fly. So firewalls are designed for that. Yes.
So one question, sir. These as access control lists are stateful or stateless?
That
Hello?
is a loaded question. That is a loaded question. I would say what I've talked about is stateless. But you have
Okay.
stateful ACLs, so, and in firewalls, all the ACLs are stateful.
Okay.
So now, since nobody had any question, Mr. Niranjan will answer the question. What is stateful and stateless? Because he asked that, I answered it. Apparently, this guy was asked that question, so that's why I did not ask you that question, because you would have asked me. But since you are sitting all chilling out, so now you tell me what is stateful and stateless. And you started looking at your notebook, you are next, just so that you know. Hmm. You hear a word, you freaking ask a question. Simple. As simple. Stateless would be that you said this is what it'll do. Stateful, it will keep track. Like all the firewalls are stateful. If you allow A to B communication, you do not have to have B to A, because the firewall keeps track of the state of the session, that if this guy was allowed to reply will come. That means this IP to this IP, reply comes will be this IP to this IP. This port to that port, that will get switched. Reply comes. So if it is a stateful access list, you will not have to explicitly enable B to A. But if it was stateless, you will have to. And to answer this question, whoever asked this question, well, we have something called reflexive ACLs on the Cisco iOS, which will make it stateful. And then you other cool things, you can have time-based ACLs. Time-based ACL is this permission, this guy can access this guy between these hours on these, right? Anytime you have got anything to do with time, remember, you have this running in your network. It should not be my 6 o'clock or your 6 o'clock. So network time protocol makes sure that you have everybody has the same concept of time. Now, having said that, why would you want to allow access only during certain hours or certain days? For which kind of users? Yes. That was the answer I was expecting. Contract employees. You definitely don't want them freaking on a Sunday logging in and downloading stuff. So you could say this access list is there, but permit so and so to so and so 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. You can do that. So if this means it is a time-based ACL, which all firewalls do, you can do it on routers also. We are not going to go that advanced. You need to be aware of it in general. You could also create an access list where you could decide who can telnet to the router or who can secure shell into the router. We talked about that in the best practices. Telnet should not be allowed and you enable VT line and all that stuff. Now, the applications of ACL in VPN, why it is important? Even in VPN, you will see you will use ACLs mainly to define what is interesting traffic. So remember this term. Interesting traffic. In the context of interesting traffic or in the context of a VPN, interesting traffic is defined using ACL. Okay, interesting traffic is defined using an ACL. Okay with that? Whatever is permitted in that ACL will be encrypted. Whatever is denied, traffic is not denied, it is sent clear text. Because you might probably, you have a VPN, but only few subnets are critical, you want to encrypt that. So then with an ACL, you will decide that this subnet is talking to that subnet, encrypt the traffic. So in that context, deny all means anything else which is not permitted will be sent clear text. Niranjan, you have not written. No, you are listening to the story. Good. This will be in your exam. Because if I ask a question on VPN, you need to be able to tell what interesting traffic is. What security association lifetime is. You have to be able to tell. That keys change. All right. Well, in routing we use it. Since we have not even talked about what routing is, but these are routing protocols through which you automatically learn which subnet is where. So there could be that, let's assume what you have done is, this side was your Indian network. Okay, this is a routing protocol, OSPF, for shortest path first. And you bought a company which was running EIGRP, Enhanced Interior Gateway Routing Protocol, which used to be Cisco proprietary. It has been opened up since. Right, so those guys are still running, let's say that's a Bangladeshi network. So the Calcutta router is actually speaking with the Indian network OSPF with the Bangladeshi network EIGRP. So with an access list, now you have bought a company in Bangladesh, but only one subnet where their servers are, the Indian rest of the company needs access to. So then you can say, you know what, that one particular subnet, redistribute it into this so that it is advertised. Where the redistribution is happening? Calcutta. So all Indian guys will think Calcutta is connected to that subnet. They'll send the traffic to Calcutta, Calcutta will route it. So there also we use access list to figure out which subs need to be redistributed. And then we are going to look at that, which is our next topic, network address translation, where you will use access control list, right, to say which IP address gets translated to which IP address. I have not explained that, but 1,000 feet, one sentence, if you have to understand now where it is very commonly used, okay, very commonly used is you are on a 10 series subnet and your internet connection is a public IP. So unless change the source IP to a public IP, your traffic cannot be routed on the internet. The destination is Yahoo, that will go, no problems. Reply will not come back because if the source IP is 10, 10 is non-unique. Or 172.16 is non-unique. And usually what is going to happen is it is actually not going to reach a Yahoo also. The minute with the 10 you'll send, your freaking ISP will drop it on the source IP. Okay with this? So in network address translation, you use this who will get translated to what. So if you want to think of NAT 10,000 feet as you've got a 5-digit phone extension in your company. When you dial outside, it will take that switchboard number, which will be a regular 8-digit number in Bangalore. 080 followed by whatever that is.
So can we consider our ISPs to be the NAT for our devices?
Yes and no. But yes, for the most part, for things like broadband, yes. But you can buy public IPs also if you want to keep a server in your house. Okay, so here they're just telling you it comes on an interface, it looks at one line, the next line, the next line. Unless there is a match and it says permit, only then the traffic is either taken in if it is an inbound ACL or sent out if it is an outbound ACL. If there is no match, it will look at the next one, then it will look at the next one, and then there is a implicit deny. So if there is no match, it will get dropped. I'm not getting into the routing table right now. Theoretically, yes, of course. If I don't, you are trying to reach Yahoo, you are trying to reach 20 dot something. I don't have 20 in my routing table. I don't have a default route in my routing table. The router will. So then seriously, you're not really using it to control any traffic. The net to destination is reachable. What do you control?
It says notify sender.
No device center. That usually does not happen. Only thing is application will figure it out because after it loses so many packets, right? It'll say, okay, not reachable. So usually it will be the application. Notify sender would happen IC types. Or even at the application level, if you start going to pawn sites in your company, it'll tell you freaking it has been blocked by the firewall. It tells you that. Only thing is try not experimenting because freaking that they will also get the log. Right? And one of the things you signed in your employment contract was thou shall not browse porn in company's laptop just because the screen is bigger. Right? Or with Chromecast freaking 50-inch TV you're seeing. Okay with this? If no ACL statement matches, discard the packet. What that essentially means is implicit deny. Yeah, I told you it goes sequentially. Unless there is a match and it says permit, traffic will be dropped. That's what they're telling you in this picture. All right. So standard and extended. Standard basically you do the matching only on the source IP. We will learn about standard also because we will use it in NAT. So for that we will learn. It says one ACL per interface per protocol per direction is allowed. Freaking too many pers, it's confusing. What they're telling is on my Ethernet, I will have one inbound IP ACL. That ACL have 100 lines, 1000 lines, but only one inbound for IP. Maybe if I was running Apple Talk, I could have one for Apple Talk. But for IP, on an interface, inbound one, outbound one. That is what is line number 2. The order decides. Remember, I talked red shirt and male students. So order is important. Most restrictive should be at the top. Last one always implicit deny. Many times what you do is on routers, you had deny any. Okay, because you want to lock. Because with implicit deny, it will not get logged. You will use two special case keywords on system. If you use the word host, that means it is a /32. If you say any, that means any. So if you say any, that means it will match all IP addresses. Okay. create the things globally up to the interface. Yeah, well, I said create the ACL, apply it to the interface in a particular direction. Last two, not really critical for you guys at this point. If it was a routing class, yes. If somebody wants, you will have access to these slides. If you want me to explain that, you tell me. Routing perspective, I will explain that to you. They're saying it is for through traffic. That means if the traffic is originating from the router, that means you're sitting on the router and you're saying telnet. That is not applicable. Or you're sending a routing update, that it will not match that ACL. It is for transit traffic, which is come from an interface going to another interface. That's what the second last line is. And the last line is useless. If you are doing it for filtering traffic, you only want to do extended. Extended is what I told you. And of course, closest to the source. Standard ACL is never used for filtering traffic. Maybe last century because the processing was slower. Yes, no, maybe too complicated. If you are copying the slide, you are wasting your time. Point number one. Number two is if there is an explanation which I gave, which is not there or it is not obvious, if you write that, that makes sense. Point number three, if you work somewhere and you have access to a printer, you should actually take a printout and bring it to the class and take notes on the printout. But whatever works for you. Or even if you have a home printer, 4 pages per sheet per side. So you're doing 8 slides. I would do that. Not every statement of the ACL. 10,000 lines, last is implicit deny everything else. Yes, yes, yes.
And the sequence.
Condition would always be very specific, right?
Anything apart from those conditions, it's always.
Yeah, you go to a passport office or you go to a ticket reservation thing, right? Well, I've not been for several years, but if you go there, you have for women there is one, then there is for defense, and then there is for senior citizens, and then it is regular life. So if you are not part of this, then you are part of this. Because they don't have that. Or you know what, for midget, this and freaking if you're more than 6 feet, this line, right? Language, if you speak this language, this line, you don't have that. So you only say either you come in these three categories, otherwise you go to the general one when you're buying a ticket in the reservation counter. Yeah, somebody was saying something.
Yeah, I mean, in every ACL list, I mean, each record will have any sequence number, for example, or it's an order from
Yes,
top to
so
bottom.
current versions of operating system, yes, yes.
Okay.
But if you do not, that is an optional thing. You do not have to do it by default. It will, I think, 10 numbers apart. First line would be line number 10, 20, 30, 40, so that you can go in between 20 and 30, insert 5 lines if you wanted to. But when you insert those 5 lines, you will have to mention that.
Okay. Any
And if
limit
it is in
to
the if it is in the
any
GUI,
limit
limit on what?
like number of records for each list?
No, there is no limit. Normally there isn't a limit. But of course, you need to understand that if you use the right kind of summarization and something, you may not necessarily need too many lines.
Oh,
But
okay.
on firewalls, on enterprise firewalls, 10, 20, 30,000 lines easy. You can
Right.
definitely see 10, 20,000 lines on a firewall. The fun part is sometimes you get these losers who come for troubleshooting. This is not working. So what those guys will do is they'll go there somewhere in the middle. They'll say permit any, right? So the moment you say permit any, all the freaking 8,000 lines after that are not applicable anymore. It starts working. There's a freaking he was troubleshooting so quickly. Freaking is a brilliant man, and he goes. I have seen this, and this story is true. I'm sure they would have fixed it by now. This story is about 2003, 2004. You have this bank near Trinity Church. What is that bank? Citibank is new building. There was one building
Vijaya
freaking there
Bank.
forever.
Vijaya
Huh?
Bank, I think. Vijaya Bank.
Vijaya Bank. So some dude got showed me the configuration. They had like 200-300 lines, and 20th or third line was permit any. So somebody would have done that. That somebody is not able to reach something or do any freaking. Of course they will reach. Good guys will reach, and the bad guys will reach too. Okay, so you can do dynamic ACLs also. That will again not go into this, but this is all this cool stuff they came up with. Little tricks 15 years ago, 17 years ago. That what you do is you connect to the device. If your username password is correct, then it will allow you to send traffic. So this is what they call as dynamic ACL. So you create an access list entry which will be applied to the interface only when the authentication passes. Lock and keys, username password is the lock. The moment you give your username password, then that entry which you have created will get applied to the interface. Now your traffic will start flowing. Otherwise, it is blocked. Reflexive ACL, I told you, this is basically session based, where you can basically say if the traffic went from A to B, allow the return traffic, which basically every ACL does today. This was a cheap trick on a cheap router 20 years ago, which was a cool feature then. Time I told you for contract guys. So this would be basically you have an ACL and you type a question mark. It will tell you that if you wanted some timing also. Reflexive. It is not reflective. Reflexive. That means from my IP to Yahoo, when the traffic went, if SYN goes, snack will automatically be allowed. So it maintains a session table. It reflects upon it that okay, if this reply is coming, if the original transaction was allowed, the reply would also be allowed. Time based is 9 to 5. It has got nothing to do with session. All right. So there are, oh, I deleted them. All right. So cool. Let's do an ACL then. Okay, you guys can see packet tracer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. This is from the last lab, right? This is not the saved configuration, man. We didn't save last time. I didn't say write memory. VLANs would all be working fine. VLANs would be working fine. Let's see this. All right. Okay, so no problems. We'll configure this. Do you remember the IP addresses? Do you remember the IP address?
10.1.1.1 network and
That was an IP address. There is a possibility it is getting the IP address from DHCP. So it's actually a different series altogether. Right? Let's go. I think this one was from DHCP. DHCP 2.1. What is IP? 2.200. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, 2.200 is working. Okay with this? Maybe the other one was 1.200. Yeah. Remember we had set up that scope and all that. So yeah, so basically do a write WR or write memory on the router so that you save your configuration. So I just did the inter VLAN routing part. Now. So now do you see that I have access to all the devices? Yes, no, maybe.
yes.
Okay. Now let me go. Why am I not? Now let me go here. So look at this. My IP is 10.1.1.10. Yes. And if I remember right, this is what we had set up. Reva.com.
Yes.
Yes, no.
Yes.
Now what I'll do is I will ping. Let me get the IP address of this guy. It is 10.1.1.100. Yes.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will prevent this guy from browsing. That means everybody else will also get blocked unless I say permit everybody else. Now this guy is hitting which interface on the router? Traffic from this guy is
10.1 subnet connected.
so this is in my domain itself. So this is not even hitting the router. So there isn't much I can do on this side. What I will do is I will go here. Let me go to this PC. Let's see what is the IP address 2.10, right? Now in 2.10, let me do yes. Now let me try doing a trace. Okay with this? Now 2.1 is what interface on the router? If you take the cursor on top of the thing, it will tell you it should, ideally. 2.1, I just now configured it. 0/1. 0/1 was phase 1 of the freaking thing. Then we did router on a stick and we had actually not done 0/1 was actually disabled. If you look at that picture here, 0/1 here is gone. And I think there is a way where you can in preferences you can go and say
It's enabled. Show port labels when mouse hovers in large text.
labels and models is enabled. I thought you could do interfaces also. This. Oh no, this is even better. Says this. Okay, so if I go to that, how do I? So anyway, look at this here. Can you see it now?
Yes, 0.20.
Right? It is the second sub interface. That is where it was. So what I will do is let me try blocking this 2.10 if I remember right. Right? So I will say config T. Okay. I'm creating an extended access list and I'm giving it a name. Block 2.10. Okay with this? You will give a more reasonable name. I'm just trying to give a shitty name. Okay, I will say deny. Look at this. What am I doing? TCP. Which protocol? TCP, right? Now, from where? I want to do it only with one device, right? So what I could do is one device. What was it? 10.1.2.10. Was this on IP?
10.
Dude, the server is in 1.100. If it is in the same subnet, it will not even go to the router, it will go directly.
I think
So I
0.18
can,
was.
what was the IP address? Is this the IP address of that source? So now look at this. You have got something called wildcard. Wildcard basically in a subnet mask, we were doing a match on the ones and the zeros were don't care. So let me draw that, which is actually funny. So let's assume that if I did 255, 255, 0.0, these were the ones, right? which you were matching, and these were don't care bits, right? Just for some freaky reason, they have got what is called wildcard for an access list, which is just the reverse. If you say 0, 0 means there is a match, it is a 1, it is a don't care. So basically what we will do is, for the IP address, I will give, that means match all of these bits if this is the source, right? Now this can also be written as host with this IP address, because it is only one, which I will use now. I host 10.1.1.100, right? That was my server, reva.com. Yeah. Now what I do is, look at this. So it is telling you, you're on time, man. Jolly were you. What did you do in the night? Full T-shirt. Why you don't sleep at work? That's why, you know what, you need to study hard so that you get to sleep at work. You get a job where you can sleep, which pays money also. Huh? Like this is too much over me now. Anyway, so now look at this. So basically,
So,
forget about everything else. What we can do is equal to, less than, greater than, and range.
sir, one question.
So yeah,
Here we are adding an ACL to block the packets which are originating from the router itself, right?
no, I'm not. Look at the source IP address 10.1.2.10. 2.1 is the router. 2.10 is not the router. And your ACLs, if you look at those conditions, do not work for that.
Okay, sir. I was thinking 2.10 is a router. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Dot 1 is the gateway usually, or
Okay,
254.
okay.
Okay with this? So now, so basically, see, I can say less than. If I say less than 1024, LT is less than. That means all standard port. If I say greater than 1023, all non-standard ports. In this case, what I could have done is source port I could have given. Let me go back. Let me go back and type a question mark. Look at this. I gave the source IP, right? I could have given the source port also. But if I choose not to give the source port, that means all source ports. So I can give the source and the destination port combination too. So less than is commonly used, greater than is used, equal to is like we will do 80. Or you can give a range. So I'll tell you why range. Voice over IP, for example, it starts from 16,000 some change port and goes up to 32,000 some change port. So if you come from the voice domain, the voice calls run on UDP ports, which are dynamically negotiated. So you can give a range for that. If you have an application, you don't know the specifics. So again, I'm not going to go to the source. If I don't give, default is any source port. Now I will say host and 10.1.1.100 equal to, and look at this. If you know the port, good. Okay, depending on the version of OS you are in, it will give you a lot of common used ports. Like look at this. If you say www, it takes 80. So you can type 80, you can type www. So I say, there you go. So now look at this. I said deny. It is deny this and deny everybody else. Because you are screwed once I apply. And that is the reason why I will have to say now permit IP any permit everybody else. Okay with this? No issues. I need that two things I told you, the bottle and the chair to draw the picture. Yeah. Show access list. Look at this. By default, it has created 10 and 20. This wasn't the case when I took my first lab, 2005. So you change something, Ricken, you have to add something, you copy it, add it, paste it again. Okay with this? Yes, no. Yeah, so but you understand what is going on, right? Not it is not the question mark, man. Seriously. Question mark will give you the command. If you want when I give you your lab exam, okay, when I give you your lab exam, I will give you the first 2-3 words of the commands. Okay. So that you have a starting point and then you type question mark. I went for my CCI security lab to Dubai. Freaking there was no center in India. All VPN configuration starts with crypto. I forgot crypto. Can you believe this CCI security? And I'm like, if I remember C, I can do C question mark. It'll give me all the commands starting with C. Total blank. But they give you the documentation CV. How do you create a simple VPN? So I went there and clicked there. It said crypto. This I said, okay, now I know. So I am planning to do that. I will give you, like for example, when we talk about access list, I will give you IP access list. After that, you should be able to do whatever. Okay, so now you see this. I have not done anything. I have not applied it yet, right? So should we go and see where is first of all 2.10? This is 2.10. This is 2.10. So if I go to reva.com, will it work now? We didn't do this. We created an access list. We have not applied. Of course it works. Right. Now we will apply. We will apply to .20 subinterface. Right? Because that is where the traffic is hitting. So I say config T interface, I'll use the up arrow. There you go. Okay. So now you know how long it has been for me to have done this. Okay, IP access group. Now see question mark. I can give it a name. You could use a number. I gave it a name. My name was what? Block dash 2.10. Saw that? Now I type a question where it is inbound, right? It is hitting the other and then going back. Now let me go. You might want to write down that. I'll do a show run. Those two commands you can write down. Okay. Now let's go and check again. Yeah, okay. So that now let me do one more thing. Let me go back to the router and let me see if the there you go. Look at this. You see the counter going up. Matches you are seeing at the back. Yeah, it wasn't there earlier, right? So this will go up. Now let us look at this. Now fun stuff. What happens if I go to the same guy and ping reva.com? Will it work or no?
It will
It
work.
will, because I blocked only TCP destination port to this IP, not ICMP. If I had forgotten to do permit any freaking we are screwed. We would be able to communicate only within VLAN 20. Okay with this? One destination port from this IP, from this source to that source. Now if I go to the other guy in the same VLAN, right? This guy is in the same VLAN, right? Remember, for everybody else, it was permit any. So in the same VLAN, this will work. One IP only, most restrictive at the top. Everybody else in that VLAN is allowed. And even most restrictive, even in that same IP, I could ping. And DNS was working. So there is a lot of, now let's go here. Let us see if the counter has gone up. There you go. Do you see permit counter has gone up? Because of the ping and the browsing from the other one. This.
Will that match? How is it calculated?
How many packets hit that line? So this also helps in troubleshooting. Again, the counters are not going up or they are continuously going up. Like if you have a DOS attack happening, right? Then the counters will start going up. And deny any is not seen. You've seen that? You can explicitly say deny IP any if you wanted to see those matches also. But again, you should have some permit statement. Otherwise, it is deny this, deny everybody else. So that would suck. Okay with this? Everybody clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first of all, you need to understand the applications are not designed to send one freaking packet and go to sleep. Before your browser times out, it will freaking try. Everybody understood this question? It is not one packet. Right? You write the application, try once, try second time, try third time. Right? Maybe there is intermittent connectivity issues. Maybe one SYN got dropped. One SYN got dropped, freaking done. Not reachable. Okay with this, everybody? Now I will show you the config which I had done. So there you go. That is how I apply the, remember this is your phase 2. This is your phase 2. I'm just actually thinking, I just gave it an IP address. Maybe I would have typed right after this. How did it start working? Or maybe it was just spanning tree. I gave it an IP address unnecessarily because look at this helper address and all that is still there. I didn't type that. Anyway, right? So this is how I apply IP access group, whatever is the name. There is a number ACL. We are not talking numbered ACL. It is not a memory game. In the exam, you will give it a name. And ideally, if you give a name which I can understand, right, it will make my job easier. Okay. So this is where IP access group name and in and out. So this is how we are going to do this. And this is where I created the access list. So I go to config T and then I create configure terminal, that terminal, I'm manually typing. In config T, you go to enable mode, then you go to config T, and that is where you type this. And then the interface, whatever interface or the sub interface, and that is where you will type the second command.
Always required to give the wildcard must right after the first time.
Wildcard or host or any. No, wildcard is how many bits you want to match. Like I gave, see the wildcard it already converted to host. The iOS was smart, but when I had typed, I had actually typed the wildcard. Wildcard zeros match and ones are don't care. So that is also 30 bits. So if you wanted it to match, then it will be 32 bits will be 0000. If you wanted only the /24 sub to match, it will be 0.0.0.255. I have no freaking idea why they did it, just to make it more complicated so the network guys make more money. Because likewise you match on a 0 or a 1, freaking just figure out 1 and just let's, like if you look at so many things when you configure, somewhere low number is high priority and high number is low priority. In some other configuration, freaking high number is high priority and low number is low priority. You've seen that or no? You just keep freaking trying to figure that out, and somebody who remembers it on top of his head, he's the smart one. But you have seen, right?
Yes.
It is like left hand drive, right? Yeah, exactly. It is just extra work for nothing. Left hand drive, right hand drive. Depending on who ruled you. Okay with this? So we are done with the access list. When is the tea time, man? Now? Okay, tea time. Who is going to stop? You have been told how to stop recording and continue. Okay, if you have been told and nobody steals my head. So guys, we'll be back in what, 15 minutes? 11:45, 12 will be back. And lunch will be 15 minutes later, I think. Well, it depends on when we finish. Yeah, because Mac is very long. And if you did not understand OCL, Mac will not very well. Hey guys, can you hear me? Guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now also, now can you hear me? Because they could probably be hearing from there if this is not connected. Because I turned this off to conserve power. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, so I was just checking if my mic is working. Because I turn it off to conserve the power. Otherwise, in the previous classes, you couldn't hear the first half. In this class, you'll not hear the last half. Right? And the excitement continue. All right, I'm rubbing everything on the board. So if I did a standard ACL, it would only be one subnet. Okay, I don't have control over the source and destination and the protocol and the port. But we will use it for identifying subnets in NAT. So let's see how to do that. Okay, I'm not into terms local, global. So let me tell you what the NAT story is. So this is your firewall or your router, whatever device it could be. Now let's say this is your net, right? And you are at. Now with this is a non-route IP address on the internet. So let's say you are going to Google. So let's find out what's the IP address of Google just for fun. All right. Do you see this is a public IP? Two 192. 142 is it? Okay with this? So now your IP is not routable on the internet. So what you will do is at the router or the firewall level, you will change it into a public IP. This interface would be a public IP. Which again, somebody asked some question, right? Who will do the netting ISP? Who asked? So normally what happens is if you look at your modem in the house, its public IP will also be private. So yes, they do their own thing, but they will net it and send it. And for all you know, if you have a DSL type connection, you are always online, right? So there is no difference between static and dynamic IP, but they'll make extra money on it. So they'll say if you want static, pay money. So anyway, so this is how it is. Now when we do NAT, okay, we basically do two types of. So this is called network address translation. So why do we do network address translation? One common thing is most common usage is we are running out of IP addresses. That's why they came up with the private IP addresses. But to make them routable on the net, you do this. Private IP to public IP, common use. Okay. One place where you do netting. Second place where you do netting, IP4 to IP6 or IP6 to IP4. You are on IP4, service provider is in IP6. So IP4 is a different protocol. There it is not called NAT, it is called NAT-PT. NAT-PT, protocol translation. So if you see that word, that means you are doing 4 to 6. Either you are on 4 or they are on 4 and you are on the other version. Okay. The third place you do is overlapping subnets. Overlapping subnets would be essentially that you are talking to a partner. So do you know what a extranet and what a intranet is? So tell me somebody very quickly. What is an extranet? What is no, it cannot be taken as internet. Sorry. Intranet is your company network. Reva network is intranet. What is extranet? You should be teaching, man. Seriously. I'm telling you, freaking, I'm sitting on the wrong side. If you were here and I was there, you would be so screwed. Yeah. I used to give 1 hour viva for that in college because I used to be there and some clown is here full time pass. Extranet is essentially your network and somebody else's network together, like a partner. Let's say, like with the DMZ. So if you look at it, let's say you are Maruti Suzuki. You make cars. Do you make tires? C8 or MRF supplies tires. So extranet is your and their network. That common part of it is extranet. So now, if you are Maruti Suzuki, you could be on 10 series IP address, right? So when you get an order, let's say you get an order of 10,000 cars of some series for export to some country, right? Tires are required in the beginning, middle, or end of your production cycle. End. So you know how long it will take, how many per batch you make. So those guys also have to be told, right? Because they need to supply. If you got 10,000, that means they are going to supply 50,000 tires. 4 plus 1, right? And based on Your batch size is when they will know that after so many weeks I will need it. I will need first 5,000, then I'll need the next 5,000 based on, because they understand. So they need to get to that server, right, where you load the order. Now you are in 10 series. They can also be in 10 series or no? So can one 10 series talk to another 10 series if they are the same subnets? You are 10-1 and they are 10-2 problems. But if you are 10-1 and they are also 10-1, you cannot talk, right? These are called overlapping subnets. Somebody will have to change at the edge. So you become from 10 to 170 to 16. Now life is good. And change the routing. But one more thing you need to understand, that this NATing device is introducing IP addresses which do not exist. Normally, how do you advertise subnets? You advertise subnets because they are connected to your interface. Like if I go here, if you look at my routing table, I have a very simple routing table in my, when I keep, this is too much. There are two packet tracers on. I say enable, show IP route is the routing table. So look at this. It says two connected subnets. Do you see that? /24s. C, it says C. C means how I learned it, connected. One is connected on this interface, one is connected on the other one. Forget the local story for now here. Do the local. Okay with this? This is how every network originates. But when you are doing NATing, when I go back to NATing, this network does not exist. This 171 came out of nowhere unless it was the public IP of this router. If it was a public IP of the router, then okay, everybody knows how to reach. But if the ISP gave you a pool, that normally the pool size of public IP addresses depends on what size pipe you buy by default. Plus you can buy more. Now that does not exist. That routing has to be taken care of. Remember that. Always remember that. If your NAT is not working, first thing you need to eliminate is there a routing issue? Like for example, I would think of overlapping subnets, for example. Bangalore is 080, right? What is Hyderabad?
040 40.
040. Okay. So now let's assume when we say overlapping subnets, if Hyderabad was also 080, you cannot talk to Hyderabad. So you basically prefix their phone number with, let's say, 99. But 99 does not actually exist on the network. So you will have to, when the Bangalore guys are trying to talk to the Hyderabad guys, 080 is ruled out, because 080 freaking we cannot differentiate between Bangalore. It's a phone call to a Bangalore phone number or a Hyderabad phone number, right? But now that you have changed Hyderabad to 99, you need to tell the Bangalore's telephone switch or the main network exit point, that if somebody says 099, put it on this wire which is going to Hyderabad. You get that? You have done change 040 to 09 and all that is cool. But the call will not land because others should know 99 means that guy. That is what I am saying. Anytime your NAT is not working, first thing to look at is routing. Is your routing, do the other people know that IP address? Okay with this? Yes, no? Too complicated? So you should wear a monkey cap. In the lunchtime, go get a monkey cap, wear it and sit. This is full fun. I'm actually very happy. I'm really happy. All right. Now, So now you understood what we are trying to do, the NAT. So now NAT is of different kinds. I spent half my life looking at pens. I got one now. Where did I keep? It has all got to do with this nameplates. Seriously. All right. So you have take a picture, send it to them. So you have static NAT and dynamic NAT. In dynamic NAT, there are two ways. One is port address translation. PAT is port address translation. Remember, PAT will work only TCP or UDP based. Okay, and then
So
you
can you repeat
regular
that statement? Hear it. PAT will only work.
PAT is many to one on different ports. It is port address translation, so it should be TCP or UDP based because these are the only two protocols which have port numbers. And the other one is regular dynamic, which is many to many, where you have to specify pool of addresses. And I will explain all of these on the board, and then we will go and do it in the lab. Okay. Yes, Mr. Niranjan. Have I explained till now any of these things on the board other than the name? He wants to know freaking details of PAT. I've written PAT so that once you understand 10,000 feet, then we will go into it and actually understand how the hell this works. I just told you port address translation, which means TCP and UDP only. That is all I've explained till now. Okay. I love this. You send the pictures. Cool. So now let's assume that I have, this is actually exactly like our lab, right? Dot 100. 11100 is our web server, right? So DNS also, but web server, right? This is my web server. And on the DNS in the internet, what I have advertised is, so this is, let's say, reva.com has been advertised with a public IP address of 9999. 10 you cannot advertise. So the world will type 9999 or reva.com, which will translate it to 9999. You need to make sure that traffic lands on this port. because 9999 does not exist. How you do it? You play with your routing and make sure that happens. Once that happens, then you land that traffic on this particular device, and on this particular device, this is what is happening in the DNS. Now this is on the right. But what you have done is, on this router or firewall, you have told you get destination 9999, send it to this. Do you understand this? So static NAT is used. This is statically I've done the NATing, where you will do it only for devices which need direct reachability from outside or have been advised in DNS. Why I say or? DNS part is pretty straightforward. Maybe you're running some cool ass internal applications in your company. Your guy will launch his client. It is pre-configured to connect to some public IP, right? You are not even thinking about it. You say we can launch and I get the dashboard. So that is why, generically speaking, static NAT is normally used for servers or apps which need direct access from the internet. And 9999 should land on this router or this firewall. Destination IP from 999 to 10.11.100 and send it to the server. Okay with this? Are these guys seeing the full, or they are also seeing only so much? No, this they should be able. They are seeing. Is it full or only this? Okay, good. Okay with this? Plus, when anybody from this guy goes out, the source IP will be changed from this to this. It goes out. When something comes from outside, the destination IP will be changed from this to this. This is kept. You can see what is the NAT table on a Cisco router. Show IP NAT translation. If you want to see the NAT table, you should be in the enable mode or the privilege mode, not in the config mode. Okay, Mr. Sudhakar. It says 27 degrees, and why are you feeling so cold? Oh, maybe it is just in the LED. It has got nothing to do with the temperature. Yeah, this is also 26. That is 20. Yeah, cool, man. That is nice. So yeah, you guys don't care, right? If it is cold here anyway. And after that class only is over. I hope you are not going to increase this, man. You are sitting here. It should not affect you. He is okay. Yeah, he's got a beard also, so he also will not feel cold. That is one advantage of having a beard. This is the last 5 years. This thing was not there. I got my own theory. I'll tell you over. Okay with this? So this is static NAT. Now let me do, this is static. Now let's say dynamic. In dynamic, what I will do is, with an ACL, I will say 10.1.1.0/24. I will create a pool of 9.9.9.10 to 20. So 10 to 20, how many IP addresses are there? 11. 11 guys can go out. First guy goes, he gets 9910. Second guy 99920. They do their own thing and the reply comes back. You have to make sure that this pool is routed back to my router or my firewall. Clear with this? So this I will identify. This I will identify with an ACL, and this I will give it a. I'll identify with a pool name, pool of IPs.
So if 11 guys going out, then there will be 11 public IPs associated.
Yes, and only 11 can go out. Okay with this? It is like, remember I have always been giving an example of that extension number and the number outside. So basically it is a hunting number. So if you are Wipro, you have taken a hunting number of, let's say, 100 numbers. 100 guys from inside. There are 10,000 guys, 10,000 phones. They can talk to each other. But 100 at a time can go out or calls can come in. 101st guy cannot dial out. Okay with this? Any confusion? Yes, no?
Just trying to understand. In terms of the broadband IP, normalized it. Say first for I state, I have a connection.
We have not done all kind of NAT, so hold your horses. One PAT is missing. Let's do PAT. Then we would have finished all NAT, and then you can ask that question. Maybe you may want not to ask that question. Okay with this, everybody? Yes, no, too complicated? Yeah. Now let's do PAT. Okay, we'll make internet a little slim. So now basically what we are going to do is, what did I say, Pat? Many to one on different ports. So let's say, so this was my static, this was my dynamic, and okay, let's say we also had 9.9.9.21. What we can do is, okay, source IP, destination IP, and port. So now this and they're in my pocket. My life is exciting. So let's say assuming they are all TCP, okay? It'll work with UDP also. Can you see two browser session open on these two machines? Yes, no? Can this happen or not allowed? Same port number on a different machine. Same port on number on the same machine is allowed. Different machine, yes, the OS is coming up with it, right? Yes. Can you identify these sessions? I'm choosing not to use IP addresses. Yahoo TCP80, Yahoo TCP80, Google 443, 1923, 22 is what port? Secure
SSH.
shell. Yeah. Are you clear with all these entries on the right now?
Yes.
And I will have the guys who are sitting remotely, I will in the next 1 minute, I will have him take this picture and send it to you. This is the source. Source translated IP port. Normal, take a picture, send it to them. If you look at this, they are all going on the same IP, different port numbers, and the router or the firewall will try to maintain the port number unless it has been given out. So if you look at this, 1024 was already given out, so he picked the next available port. Because when the reply comes at layer 3, they will all have the same IP address. He has to change the destination IP address to this. At layer 4, the destination port also has to be changed. So he should be able to, otherwise, if he had given 1024 again, he would not be able to differentiate between the first session and the third session. That is why he gave the next available 1026. So reply will come to this 1026. At layer 4, he will change the destination port to this, and at layer 3, destination IP to this. So this is called port address translation, many to one on different ports. This is what your ISP is doing. Because 99.99% of your traffic is TCP or UDP. In IPsec VPNs, this will fuck up. And if you remind me when we are doing VPNs tomorrow, okay, what is NAT-T? Use that word NAT-T. Whenever I tell you, if you have got more than one color pen, you should write in a different color, put a circle, ask in the next class. Because I've been telling you a few things. Nobody has ever asked me anything in any class. So, Rahul, I need my water bottle and the chair. It has to happen. Not now. No. Not now. Nothing in real time I do. Make sure you have that in your mind. Otherwise, next week I'll be working from home. Yes. It's called NAT traversal. It's a term. On side-to-side VPNs, shit will happen if you have any NATing device on the way. ISP, you connect to the internet wherever. So if you know, if you can see this, so you have 1024 to 65 ports available. So many sessions you can do on one IP. 64,000 change. So that means if let's assume that one guy has got 10 sessions open, which can easily be the case, right? 10 sessions can easily be the case, right? 10 tabs, right? So we are talking 10 of those. So 6400 users you can support on one IP. If you have more than that, freaking you need to redesign your network. Right? It's like whole Bangalore freaking trying to go and watch porn on freaking one IP. That's too much. Right? And freaking every video is saying right click open in a new tab because you're losing one more port there. Then you need to redesign the network. But I will tell you what more realistically they did was that dynamic NAT pool story I told. So that was, well, 20 years back. That was pretty cool technology. Now what they do is they will do a one-to-one NAT on the pool. The moment they run out of the pool IP addresses, they'll start patting on the pool. So now if I have my pool of, like I had 11 addresses, 11 is 64,000. Now I am set. So instead of pat, you'll actually do a pool and do a pat on that, do one-to-one, after that start patting. Okay with this? Everybody, yes, no, maybe too complicated?
Yes.
Shreyas, your question was answered? Hey, this picture was sent, right? Because that chart is the bottom line of this. So they have terms local, global, region. This is what it is inside and this is what it is outside. The world outside knows it by that IP address and that port number. Inside guys know it. Local, global, inside local, outside global. There is this, either you can focus on the terms, which I never focused on. So, but yeah, I can explain that to you with the picture, with the port numbers. That's what you need to know. Otherwise, you can always Google it up. If you get a dumbass who's interviewing you, who's more interested in whether you know what is outside local than how it works. Okay with this? Everybody cool? Now what we will do is, I go back to my lab. Now what I'm going to do is, remember what was, so I do enable. Okay, well, no, let me go to the slides just in case I've missed out anything. Hi, yeah, they're doing the same thing, yeah. So look at this. This is how I do. This is IP NAT inside is where the device is actually present. Okay. Outside is where the outsiders will come from. Normally inside would be your Ethernet and outside IP NAT outside will be your port. Okay. This is where these are both interface level. If so you go to interface E0, interface because it S1 or S2, whatever your WAN port. IP NAT inside source. I'm NATing on the source IP. Statically, this guy will be this guy. So in our example, 10.1.100 will be 9999. Do you understand this? Everybody? Yes, no, too complicated.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Yeah, so let us do the same thing. Plus, good thing is now I remember the command. I had I got great memory. So see, I'm doing IP NAT right. So look at this. I can. What is IP? 10.1.1.100. Right? Yes. Now this happens to be in my which sub interface? Dot 10 or dot 20? Dot 10. So dot 10 is where my inside will happen. So now I go to interface F0 by 0 dot 10 IP NAT inside, and I go to dot 20 IP NAT. Where is this subnet? Dot 100 is in which subnet? It is in which VLAN? Dot 10 or dot 20? Yes, wherever that device is, that is inside. Where that source exists. When it goes to outside, it will get natted by that IP address. So now I say show IP NAT. Look at this. So it is saying inside local. On the inside, this is my IP address 10.1.100. Inside global. So this fuck up starts. Inside global means for the rest of the world, this guy will be known by 9999. So for me, learning that was easier. Those four things was harder. So by definition, I never chose to learn that because that is like knowing definitions, or you can know that. Okay with this? Now what I do is, everybody clear with this? Now what I am going to do is, I will go. This guy was what VLAN? This was other VLAN. Now let me go and type 10.1.1.100. We have the ACL going on still. First of all, let me. Oh, frick.
So don't we have to do any association of the name if like inside and outside?
What?
That inside and outside we are passing as input arguments for NAT command. So don't we have to do any interface naming by that inside or outside?
Inside and outside is not an interface name. It is a generic term where the source is going to come from inwards towards the router, and out is where it will get natted and it will go.
How will the router decide the sense of inside and outside?
Because you
For
typed IP NAT inside and IP NAT outside, that is how it knows.
no, but from router software point of view, it's going to be all ports. How will it distinguish
For
between this?
router, you said on the inside, if my source is this, when you send it to any interface where I have typed IP NAT outside, use this IP. Change the source IP to this. This is how the router knows. Does that answer the question? I typed IP NAT inside and IP NAT outside. I identified interfaces. Yes.
Um, so let's say we
Did I
have
type, IP NAT inside and IP NAT outside on two interfaces? Did I identify two interfaces uniquely? Yes or no?
Sorry, I missed that part. Sir. Did we? Okay, we have already typed IPNAT inside on an interface. Is it?
I gave IPNAT inside on one interface. I gave IPNAT on some other interface. Router knows that.
Okay.
Yes.
Clear. Yes. Yes.
Okay, if you ask me a question, if I ask you a question back, you need to say yes or no. Because I do not know
Yes.
what's
I
happening.
say, yeah. Yes.
I have done IPNAT inside and IPNAT outside. Now with this command which I have highlighted, I said wherever I have typed IPNAT inside, for the source IP, if it happens to be this, change it to this in both directions. So when it is coming from outside to inside, change the destination IP to this. When it is coming from this side to that side, change the source IP to this. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir. So can you just show the running configuration where the association of inside and outside was done? IPNAT inside and IPNAT outside was given.
There you go. IPNAT inside was given in the same subnet where the server is. Server is 10.1.100. And IPNAT outside was given on the other VLAN, which could have been a different interface altogether. Here they are both interfaces on the fast Ethernet itself, but theoretically these could be here. One could be Ethernet, one could be a WAN interface, which we will do once we get the routing. Right now, remember, we have not learned routing. So I'm trying to show you all this fun stuff with whatever little routing we know. By the end of the day, you will actually see it happening where I put half a dozen routers on the WAN side, on the other side of this router, and then we will see more fun stuff. Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, it's clear, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So now what I'm doing is, the hell was this? Reva.com. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Reva.com I did, and I actually took it out because again the old IP address it knows this is all internally, so they know more. Unless I go to what I can do is I will to make it more real. To make it more real, come on, yeah. This thing has to go. This thing stop presenting. This thing. Yeah, so this is what adds to that DOS attack on my brain. So I like to keep my life freaking simple. This was in which VLAN? This is in two-wheeler, right? Remember, it is all on default route. The moment I send it to the router, router knows. And now even Reva.com will work from here because I've changed it to 9999. DNS resolution has been changed. There you go. Let us talk. Let's type. It's working. The issue is 10.1.1.100. If google.com is running on that IP, you will not hit the internet itself. This is all within the network, and well, it is timed out. So I think the default behavior is the moment you enable NAT, the whole story stops. So yeah, that is probably happening here. But in real life, that is really not a use case at all. But now I can just by looking at this, I can tell you the default behavior is that if you enable NAT, if you don't come by that IP address, he will not talk to you. Okay. So that was good learning. Have fun. See this. See who went from where to where. All these guys. Okay, even the DNS is going to 9999. You're seeing that? And from these machines, it all got changed to when you went to any of these. So look at this. Tell me any entry you want me to explain. Nothing happened on the outside. On the inside, remember inside source static we typed. Do you remember that? Questions? Yes, Mr. Shreyas. Oh, this is where the photos are coming.
In static routing, the outside local and outside global are always same.
We did it on the source, right? So I will tell you, we could have done it on the destination, and I'll tell you why you would do it on the destination. Remember the example Bangalore Hyderabad STD call?
Yeah.
There, the Hyderabad guys changed their STD code from 040 to 099, right?
Right.
Well, there is every possibility that they are dumbasses. They don't know to do anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then what we can do is we will do it in Bangalore that when you are routing call to Hyderabad on this interface which is connected to Hyderabad, make it change the 040 to 099
Okay.
or 080 to 099. Yeah. So that is where you could do destination NAT also if you have to. Not very commonly used, but can be done.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is basically I do it or you do it. One guy does it is enough. Overlapping subnets mainly. Yes, Mr. Joel. Everybody. So now you have seen static NAT. So basically what you do is you can clear IP NAT translation. Remember, it happens on the fly. This becomes more important, and well, you can actually screw up your network also when you're doing dynamic NAT. Remember, you had 11 people going out, you cleared the NATing. Other 11 people jumped in, and these guys who are actually going out, they do refresh a few times and freaking they time out. So you can do well. Star means everything, but you can go and specific entries. If you have the patience, yes, you can do that. But I cleared the NAT. Okay with this, everybody? Mr. Sudhakar Avre.
So is it a practice in it? People automatically replaces
No. There is no practice. It is not ARP. As long as the guy keeps talking, he keeps slot. Okay with this? Now what we will do is, I've done IP NAT inside and IP NAT outside. Now what I will do is, let me go to the router and where the hell is that? I'm taking out the static NAT. Okay, everybody has written this command down. IP NAT inside, IP NAT outside remains the same for the whole NAT lab. Only this one command change. Whether I am doing static, whether I am doing PAT, whether I am doing whatever. How come you're back early, man? You said 1 hour. You went for a class. What did you learn today? Cool. Machine learning and artificial intelligence has been happening for freaking 50 years. Right? Now it's just become more cool. What are you showing something? B. Ninth one. Okay with this, guys? So now what I'm going to do is, okay. Another thing what you can do is go to line VTY04 and type logging synchronous. When you do this, it should ideally work and it is not. Okay. So I didn't know when you tell. So basically with logging synchronous, what you do is I went to the console line. Apparently when you click, it is the console line that opens up of the router. You said logging synchronous. Every time I had to do enter for it to get to enable mode. Now it has automatically got to the enable mode. This, remember I had to do an enter. When I do this, it will come here and then I say enter, and just to make your typing easier. Anyway, now let's do. So what I do is I'm creating an access list. IP access, not in the config mode. Config access list standard. Okay. Okay, there is no question of protocol because it's a standard access list. It does not give you that granularity. So look at this. I have created an access list. Show access list. It says NAT source, which is basically my whole subnet. Do you see that VLAN 10? Yes. I'll quickly switch. So now this is a bad picture. I can barely see it. So anyway, so there is IP NAT inside and IP NAT outside. He's telling IP and he creates an access list, which I created source NAT. Who will get NATed? Then he creates a pool, IP NAT pool. The name of the pool is net20, and he gives the starting and end IP addresses with a net mask. Net mask doesn't mean shit. But I've given a pool of IP addresses. And remember there I had told IP NAT inside source static A and B, pre-natted, post-natted. Here I am saying look at access list 1. List means look at access list called number 1. These are the sources. Whom do you get natted to? Look at the pool called this. Okay with this? Yes, no? Okay, we'll go to my. Will that work for you?
So can you repeat it, sir?
Yeah?
That configuration part which you're explaining, right? That part, can you repeat it?
Yeah. So I'm back to the configuration. I thought slide will make it easier. The slide was so screwed up that I came back here. So, okay. It was really a bad image. That's why with the monkey cap, you need to get binoculars also or a telescope. Full fun it will be. Okay. So now look at this. So I'm saying now. So I'm defining a pool. Huh? Okay. This is my public IP pool. Yes. That doesn't mean shit. Okay. Do you see that? Based on the picture which they have already shared with you, what dynamic NAT I was going to do. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Look at the whiteboard and look at the configuration. Right now, with an access list, I have told who will get natted. The number of IPs that will get natted is how many? Based on the subnet mask. Number of IP address
255.
that exists
255.
254.
Yeah.
254. Yes.
Yes.
My arm is beginning to hurt. I got vaccinated 2 days back. And just now I almost slipped, so I don't know. Booster, yeah. My brother got COVID and I took one. Apparently, it's painful and you're down for 2 to 4 days. Okay. Now, 254. And now I've got 11 IPs in the pool, which I've defined. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Remember, I have still not connected that this IP will become this IP. And that is what I will do here with IP at inside. Okay. Source list. What is the name of my ACL? NAT SRC. I hope it takes the named command. Pool. What is the pool? Top IP pool. Do you see this? This is where I am connecting the three together. So what I will do is I will do a show run. Hopefully these will show up next to each other. IP NAT inside and IP NAT outside remains the same. There you go. So look at this. This is where I have created the access list, where I have identified these are the guys will be natted. So in this particular case, assume that going to VLAN 20 is public. Let's assume VLAN 20 is public IP. But since both the sides have given default gateways, it will come to the router and router knows. So no issues. But shit will happen when we do the routing labs and we will see how to fix it. Right now, because they're all default gateway pointing to the router, router knows what the hell is going on. Because if you look at it, 9999 does not exist. Only the router knows. But since both the sides default gateways is a router, life is good. And this is where I created a pool that it starts from 10, goes up to 20. And the next command is the one which links whom do I source NAT? Look at access list called NAT source. Whom to NAT it to? Remember it was static. So a static has been changed to list because with an ACL. Many to many pools. This will get natted to whatever is in this pool. Yes, no? Too complicated.
So one question.
Yeah, ask a easy one.
That IP NAT, this next line, right? IP NAT, wherein we are tying the NAT rule with the access list. So the
second
objective,
one.
the second line. So the objective
Yes,
there is
that is the punchline. If you look at it, that is the punchline. Because this is where you are saying who gets natted to whom. Yes.
why are we taking the support of access list? Why can't we individually entirely let the NAT module handle it? Why should we?
Okay, so now you tell me, look at your notes. When I said dynamic, what was dynamic?
Any of the IPs can be picked up.
Many to pool, many tree. I can always create an access list and give only 2 IP addresses. In this case, there are only 3 active IP addresses, .10, .20, .100. So I can create an access, have 3 freaking entries on it and use it. But bottom line is, in real life, we are going to use the whole subnet. Yes or no?
Sir, why can't we pass that as input to NAT itself? Is the question.
Yeah, tell me.
No, why can't we pass that subnet or number of IPs or a specific IP, any of that, as input to the NAT module itself, and segregate, like have separate access list for processing them?
You could do that.
Okay.
I can complicate my configuration, but yes, I can create an access list, and in that access list, I can specifically add only the IPs which exist. But normally, if you look at it in an environment, your IPs, you are in a company, you get your IPs through DHCP, true or false?
Yes.
If you get it from DHCP, your whole department gets the same subnet, true or false?
Yes.
You guys here, you need to answer. If you do not answer, we can continue the class next time. We will just start 4 hours early. Right? Now, the whole department either gets to access the internet or the whole department does not get to access the internet. True or false?
Can't it be like some of the people are privileged to access the internet, maybe some sales or someone and
Yes,
not?
yeah, even IPs are not IPs.
Okay.
Yes, you can control. I have created an access list. I have allowed everybody. I could have chosen to get as specific as I want. I could have done even IPs, odd IPs if I wanted to. I could have permitted only 10 guys get natted. I could have done that. Or only 20 guys who are not. I could, for example, I can do host. Host 10-1111, 10-1112, 10-1113, freaking 254 entries. I did it in one line. But if my requirement was, I could have played with the wildcard mask and done natting for the ones I wanted to. The pool will remain the same. But here I can play with the access list and become as silly as I can.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now let's go here. Programming, desktop, where the hell?
Sir, just one last question. So the processing happens like the source from the source NAT that is in the direction when it is going out. So the first source translation followed by access list.
Access list is not being used to control access. Access list here, remember there was a slide I gave in access list where all access list is used. One of the use cases was NAT. Here we are using access list not to control access. We are using access list to identify who will get natted.
Okay. Okay. Now it is clear, sir.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So now look at this. I went to 10-1100 from where? Which is my subnet here? Look at this. I'm in the one. That is where my IP NAT inside was happening. Now let us look at this. This is funny. Ah, freaking, I did not go to the other subnet. I did not go to the other. I'm on my own subnet. So of course, freaking, it is not hitting the router. So what I will do is, the only fun part is that there is no server on the other side. Other than ping, I can't do much. I will add a server. Don't worry. We'll see this. Ping 10.1.2.10, right? Ping is happening. So this guy should take the first IP of the pool. Yes. Did it take the first IP of the pool? 99910.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that you want to see more? I will go here and remember this guy is also in the same VLAN. Hopefully, I will get this guy and I will have him ping 10.1.2. Was it 20? No, it was getting it from the DSCP, so I'll just do it 10 again because I don't remember the IP. I don't need to remember the IP actually. Too lazy for that. Look at this 99911 it got. Did you see that? Until there are only two machines left. Until 20, so I understand unless we are able to run by connecting 10 or 20 machines out there, giving it an IP address, and learn nothing more.
So we can't hear you, sir.
Yeah, nothing is happening. This is 10,000. Uta time. So we are done. Turn it off. Lunch. After lunch, you have a test. This is here. Now I'll give it to you personally by hand. If it is